Hello and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to RickCast, where in a sea of vapid and annoying podcasts, not annoying, pompous, pointless, everybody's got one. You're watching another one. Hello, I am happy to see all of you tonight on this beautiful 12th of February 2025. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff to get into today. We got our 4 stories ready for you to go. We're going to talk about the possible end of the Russian-Ukraine war. Tulsi is officially confirmed as the DNI. Captain America 4 is getting a boycott. Essentially, they're saying that because the movie's not very good. And then finally, the left is in a complete free fall because Taylor Swift, their queen, was booed. So we have all kinds of stuff to get into, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to be a fantastic show. I hope you all enjoyed my warm-up video. I worked all day on that for you. The lo-fi and everything. I hope I don't get a copyright. It said it was public domain music, so whatever. Anyway, like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, do all the fun things to help this show grow. Smash the like button on the Facebook, not the Facebook, what am I talking about? On YouTube and on Rumble. If you're on the X machine, hit that follow button and hit a retweet or a re-X or a repost to get this show out to a larger sample size. And I am happy to be with you on a Wednesday and the middle of the week, right? Hump day, blah, blah, blah. I don't really, whatever. It is what it is. As long as you don't start calling Friday, Thursday, Friday Eve. I can't stand that stuff. Anyway, I'm going to stop blabbing around here and we are going to get to our first story, which is kind of a hot take. It's not kind of a hot take. It is a hot take. And I think you're all going to enjoy it. Well, maybe you will, maybe you won't. Either way, it's going to be fun. I'm all the way up here in the corner because I'm supposed to share this screen because we are getting to our hot take. You would think after 10 minutes I'd be ready to go. You would be wrong. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Bam. First story, our first hot take of the night is from breaking news or from leading report. I'm sorry. This is breaking. Attorney General Pam Law and Bunny Bondi is filing charges against New York Governor Kathy Hochul and New York Attorney General Letitia James or Letitha. It's something like that. One of those. Essentially, what we're seeing is lawfare being exercised. Whether you like it or not, what happened to President Trump during his time between stints in the Oval Office was considered lawfare, especially if you actually knew anything about law and broke down the quote-unquote crimes that he was accused of in New York, the essentially reestablishing or the remanaging of case law to allow these charges to be brought. And then in the actual courtroom where the judge said, you don't have to get a unanimous decision. You just got to give me 9 votes. You got to on any of them. Just give me something. And so you have that lawfare. So it's kind of about time that lawfare gets struck back on you. And that's what we're seeing here as far as these charges being leveled against the governor and being leveled against Letitia James. Now, you understand, Letitia James staked her political career on getting Trump. She was setting herself up to be either a future senator or maybe even a governor after Kathy Hateful Kate decides to leave. Whatever the case may be, she was trying to set herself up for that. There were no actual pursuit of justice in these cases, but that's already, it's past. So we'll see that. Now, anyway, here is Law and Bunny Bondi at the press conference to tell you about some of the reasons why she decided to put some lawfare against Letitia James. You know what would help? If I put the volume on.
President Trump has directed this to stop. And if you don't comply with federal law, we will hold you accountable. We did it to Illinois. Strike 1. Strike 2 is New York. And if you are a state not complying with federal law, you're next. Get ready.
So what she's saying there is that the concept of not helping with federal agents trying to remove criminal alien trespassers from these United States, getting rid of them, and those FBI agents or those state level reps or anybody who is assisting in the evading of these criminal alien trespassers from actually being caught and detained and sent back to the country of origin, you're in a violation of federal law. This is the kind of stuff that you unfortunately need to do. And I know it's going to be painted in terms of how it happens on a schoolyard. Kid pushes, one kid pushes another kid. That kid punches the first person who pushed him, but the kid who responded, he gets in trouble. Republicans are going to be framed as, look at this fascist government going after innocent Kathy Hochul and Letitia James and the people of Illinois. They're just, they're going to be framed in such a way that's absolutely pathetic. But in reality, the left has been celebrating the fact that they are not complying with federal law, the fact that they are celebrating and promoting the fact that they are not cooperating with federal law. This is what happens when you break the law. Whether I like it or not, if we are going to be a nation or a union of laws, then they must be enforced on everybody. Okay, John Adams said, one of the reasons he was excited about the formation of a new union of states is that it could be not settled under a king, but under the law. And the law is supposed to apply to everybody, rich or poor. There was no gray area. The law is not supposed to have gray area. Now, of course, as law has become more complex, it has developed more gray areas, especially in our adversary system. We don't have, or what we have in these United States is we call an adversary system, justice system, meaning you have a point, I have a point, whoever can argue it better wins. But outside of that, the law is supposed to be, Steph is our House liberal. And if Steph is going to sit back and say that the left did nothing wrong and didn't attack him consistently and drag him through the courts and break into his home and, do all of these things and think that the left is completely innocent, I'm glad you're here, Steph. I'll just say that. But I expected this to happen. We'll see how hard the Trump administration pushes, and we'll also see how committed they are to going to the mat once the legacy media starts pushing back on them, because they'll be framed as awful people, as terrible people, as all of these things, and Mustache Man 2.0, and well, actually, with this, not 2.0, 3.0, not 4.0, not 5.0, 6.0, because he's already gone through the other .0s. He's like Windows, or he's like AOL. And so that is what it is. And yeah, it's interesting to see that this is actually taking place, that this is actually going forward. But once again, I don't want to say relieved, but I will be interested to see how the states respond to this, because this is a federal issue. And if you're going to have federalism, then there needs to be many different levels of enforcement. The states can do their thing, which is why Trump can never pardon himself for being a quote unquote felon, because it's a state charge, no matter what, and so forth. So there are different levels to it. So that's our first hot take for the night, that Pam Bondi is going after states for helping criminals evade the law. In a very rudimentary setting, you would call it conspiracy to commit a crime, or being an alias, or in abetting a crime. There's a couple different ways you could actually slice it. None of them are very good. All right, folks, let's get to our first story of the night. Now that we finished our first hot take, coming up first, I don't know what she's doing there. Oh, okay, sorry. Like, what are you doing there, Caroline? I don't have anything from you. Anyway, from the Sky News, Ukraine war. Donald Trump says peace negotiations with Russia to start immediately. U.S. president suggests Vladimir Putin, who's invited him, right? Sorry, slip of the tongue, I guess, him to Moscow, wants to make peace. Donald Trump also spoke to Ukraine president, who wrote on X, "No one wants peace more than Ukraine. Let's get it done." Now, of course, it is kind of funny that, before Trump was elected into office, Zelensky was like, "We need bombs, we need money, we need U.S. troops on the ground. We need you to fight for Ukraine." And now that Trump's in office, it's like, "Yeah, we're ready. We're ready for peace. We're ready for peace." Yeah, because the spigot's about to get turned off. Donald Trump says there's been an agreement to begin negotiations about ending the war in Ukraine after holding phone calls with Vladimir Putin and Zelensky. I'm not going to say his first name. It is the U.S. president's first big step towards diplomacy over a conflict which he promised to end within 24 hours of being inaugurated. Of course, they're not going to let that go. Quote, "We both agreed we want to stop the millions of deaths taking place in the war with Russia, Ukraine." Let's shorten this and do a little video.
President Putin, and some details come directly from the president. He has just put out on his Truth Social, and so it's everywhere now, that they discussed Ukraine, the Middle East, energy, artificial intelligence, and the dollar. He also revealed the two agreed to visit each other's countries. He said, "I had a lengthy and highly productive phone call with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. I just read what he said they talked about. We both reflected on the great history of our nations and the fact that we fought so successfully together in World War II, remembering that Russia lost tens of millions of people, as we likewise lost so many. We each talked about the strengths of our respective nations and the great benefit that we will someday have in working together. But first, as we both agreed," so this is Trump posting about his recent call just moments ago with Putin. He said, "But first, as we both agreed, we want to stop the millions of deaths taking place in the war with Russia and Ukraine. President Putin even used my very strong campaign motto of common sense. We both believe very strongly in it. We agreed to work together very closely, including visiting each other's nations. We also have agreed to our respective terms, starting negotiations immediately. And we will begin by calling President Zelensky of Ukraine to inform him of the conversation, something which I will be doing right now." So this is playing out contemporaneously as we're here live on Outnumbered. "I have asked Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Director of CIA John Radcliffe, National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, and Ambassador and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff to lead the negotiations, which I feel strongly about will be successful. Millions of people have died in a war that would have not happened if I were president, but it did happen, so it must end. No more lives should be lost," President Trump writes. "I want to thank President Putin for his time and effort with respect to this call and for the release yesterday of Mark Fogel, a wonderful man that I personally greeted last night at the White House. I believe this effort will lead to a successful conclusion, hopefully soon." The President of the United States.
Yeah, Mendez, she's not like, people like me who can do the Trump voice. She's got to do it robotically, or else her producer is gonna lose her mind. So a lot of people are not gonna like how this goes. It's not going to, this is a situation that was made more aggressive in the waning days of the Biden administration with the launches into Moscow and all these other things, the targeting of civilian buildings with drones and all of these, because all that stuff was U.S. backed. Okay. The Ukrainians would not have lasted 20 minutes without the U.S. funding and supplying weapons. So this proxy war has to end in this regard. So it's actually very nice to see that we are getting in that direction. And so what are the terms? What do we think the terms will be? Well, we can ask Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth what the initial terms the U.S. is bringing to the table and see how many of those we get.
A sovereign and prosperous Ukraine. But we must start by recognizing that returning to Ukraine's pre-2014 borders is an unrealistic objective. Chasing this illusionary goal will only prolong the war and cause more suffering. A durable peace for Ukraine must include robust security guarantees to ensure that the war will not begin again. This must not be Minsk 3.0. That said, the United States does not believe that NATO membership for Ukraine is a realistic outcome of a negotiated settlement. Instead, any security guarantee must be backed by capable European and non-European troops. If these troops are deployed as peacekeepers to Ukraine at any point, they should be deployed as part of a non-NATO mission, and they should not be covered under Article 5.
Unmute. So that's Pete Hegseth right there. And the fact is, Ukraine's not getting that land bridge back. It's done. That's going to be Russian. I know some people are like, that's not fair. Folks, that's what happens in wars. Okay? And I've always tried to, there are people saying, well, the Russians weren't, they kind of got smoked by the U.S. and they're not as scary. I think the Russians acted in this, you can call me a Putin apologist, whatever. This is just my view. I'm not whatever. I think the Russians were very restrained in what they were doing because they wanted the land bridge, and that was it. They wanted the land bridge. If they could have gotten to Kiev, if there was no resistance, they probably would have gone there because Kiev, they feel, is part of historically Russia. But if the Russians didn't care about the Ukrainian people, they would have turned it into a parking lot in about 20 minutes. They really would have. And the idea that, we were seeing this propaganda, it was always look at the Ukrainians, they're beating the crap out of the Russians and blah, 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 blah. It's like, yeah, you're seeing one side of the story. And yes, the Russians do not look as scary because they are not fighting as hard as I believe they could. Now, there are maybe military experts that are saying, well, Rick, you're completely wrong, and I would listen to them, and that's fine, but that's just my humble opinion. So you have this agreement taking place, and I think people need to prepare for the fact that that the Ukrainians are not getting their land back, that the Ukrainians are not getting that stuff back. It's gone. That region that the Russians are occupying is mostly a Russian-speaking region anyway. It has more in common historically with the Russian people than it does with the Ukraine. Now, Western Ukraine doesn't want anything to do with them, and it doesn't look like they're going to have to. What I would propose as a non-diplomat, as a guy who's sitting in front of a camera online, that you're going to have to create some kind of DMZ, just like you have in North Korea. It's going to have to be some kind of DMZ put out. I don't know how big, but it's got to span the length of the Ukraine. Pick whatever you want. I don't care, but because the Russians are not going to be happy. Well, Ukraine's not going to be a part of NATO. Let's just be real. Ukraine's not going to be a part of NATO. That's not going to happen because the Russians are not going to agree to that. So President Putin, for his part, mentioned the need to eliminate the root cause of the conflict and agreed with Trump that the long-term settlement can be achieved through peaceful negotiations. Meanwhile, Ukraine's president wrote on X that he had meaningful conversations by phone with Mr. Trump to discuss opportunities to achieve peace and the preparation of a document governing security and economic cooperation. No one wants peace more than the Ukraine. Together with the U.S., we are charting our next step to stop Russian aggression and ensue a lasting, reliable peace. The crazy thing is, if Russia is so aggressive, why have they stopped? We keep hearing from people with Ukraine flags in their bios who were sponsored by USAID and political pundits named John Bolton and others that Putin has his side. I was watching Timcast last night, and the guy on Timcast was like, well, Putin wants to take over Poland. Putin already has a border with Poland. If he wanted to, why wouldn't he have launched a two-front war when he went into Ukraine? If he's so enamored with these, he wants to rebuild the Russian Empire. Then why didn't he do it? Why didn't he flatten everything on the way to Kiev and then just rebuild it after he took it over? the idea, and these were the reasons these people gave to continue the bloodshed. Now, a little bit of side, if you will let me go on this little side quest for about 2 minutes, maybe. This is something that the U.S. desperately needs, and they call it the sandbox. They need a sandbox to play with their toys. The military-industrial complex builds bombs whether we're at war or not. They continuously do. They build bombs. They build rockets. They build all this crap. They build new planes. They build tanks. They produce bullets and guns. And guess what, folks? Those things need to shoot at other things. We had a nice sandbox in Afghanistan for almost 20 years where we could bomb and shoot and blow up and do whatever we needed to. Because those bombs and rockets, they sit around. They're going to hit their expiration date. But where's our sandbox going to be? This is the problem. Now, I'm happy that the Ukraine fight's going to end. My issue is, where's the next sandbox? Because this was a sandbox for a couple years where the U.S. could put their bombs and, send some of their stuff, and 20 billion here, 40 billion there. And we'll see. Mark, that's a very interesting point. I think, I don't think Zelensky has a choice. I think he has to agree because the money's going to run out. Trump's not going to continue to pay for this proxy war. I don't believe you, Mark. You may be right that they won't. But if you give Putin the land bridge, give him a DMZ, and tell the Ukrainians, we'll probably end up with something like we have in South Korea, where we already have a huge military presence in Europe, but imagine an even larger one in Ukraine. So we'll see how that goes. On Wednesday, the U.S. Defense Secretary delivered a blunt statement about the administration's approach. Speaking at the NATO meeting, which we just watched, Pete Hegseth said a return to the pre-2014 borders was unrealistic, and the U.S. did not see NATO membership for Kiev. Those are the two big things that I think you can get away with. If there's no NATO membership for Ukraine and Russia gets to keep that, I'm pretty sure that will be enough to get Putin to the table. Separately, the U.S. and Russia agreed to a prisoner swap, which we just heard in the video piece. So let's see. Meanwhile, at a White House news conference on Wednesday, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said she was not aware of Mr. Trump putting any preconditions on his meeting with Putin. So this is a good thing. I think it's a good thing. The fighting needs to end in Ukraine. It was a pointless war. I'm hearing some people say that if the U.S. did not get involved, that it wouldn't have gone. Russia would have taken the land bridge, and then the Ukraine would have been like, hey, you can't do that. And the Russians would have said, shut up, and that would have been it. There may have been some insurgency stuff here and there, but the U.S. escalated this war. The U.S. made this go to where it is now. Because you had so many people in the Biden-Harris regime that were desperate, these old boomer types that wanted to finally fight the Russians, right? They wanted to finally fight the Russians. So yeah, there will be a massive base in Kiev, right? You're going to get Fort Hegseth, or maybe Fort Trump. Maybe they'll call it Fort Trump in Kiev as a compensation for it. But that's our first story of the day. We are seeing the beginnings of a peace plan between the Russians and the Ukrainians. And yes, Trump did not get it done in 24 hours, but looks like it will happen sometime this year. Trump will probably like to see it get done by the end of this year. So we'll see in that regard. All right, you're watching RickCast. I'm the aforementioned Rick. If you like what we're doing here, please do me a favor. Like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, especially if you're watching on Rumble. We want to grow our presence on Rumble distinctly because I think that is the future. I think YouTube is on the way down, and I think Rumble is the future. So if you are on the Rumble, Follow me, RickCast, and then if you're watching, smash that like button. And if you're watching on YouTube right now, smash that like button as well. If you're watching on the X Machine, make sure that you hit the follow button and retweet for a larger sample size as well. All right, let's get to our next story of the night. Tulsi Gabbard has been confirmed as the Director of National Intelligence. Brian? G Money? Are we gonna is Tulsi a bunny? I just need to know. Is she DNI bunny or not? Traitor bunny? Gun grabber bunny? Senate votes to confirm Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence. This is from the WKWWL.com. Now, I don't like Tulsi. I don't at all. I know she looks really good, Rick, when she puts on her kit and she runs around and she shoots her AR and it's super cool. We have a real thirsty problem in the conservative movement, gentlemen. We have a huge problem with y'all being super thirsty. Stop it. What did Thomas Sowell say? You know what I'm going to say in that. But Tulsi's been a conservative. I don't even think she's really conservative. She's just a former Democrat. She's not a Republican. She's been one for 10 seconds. IntelliBunny. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Oh, I love it. IntelliBunny. IntelliBunny, Tulsi Gabbard. You guys just freak out, man. She's been a Republican. She's been on Team Trump for 20 seconds. And now she's the Director of National Intelligence. I don't like it, man. I don't like it at all. I don't. But it is what it is. The Senate voted Wednesday to confirm former Democrat. I don't think she's a former Democrat. She's not one. She's not one right now. I don't think she's ever really renounced the Democratic Party. She's like, the Democratic Party left me. And that doesn't mean she stopped. As Gabbard is Director of National Intelligence, the vote was 52-48, mostly along party lines, although Republican Senator the Turtle, Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, could not get out of his wheelchair to actually vote for her. He voted for every single one of Joe Biden's appointees, by the way. Gabbard, one of President Trump's more controversial picks, faced concern from several Republican senators over her lack of support for Ukraine, which I guess is not a big deal anymore. Her shifting position on Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act 702, a key surveillance and security tool. Her 2017 meeting with former Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, and her past support for Edward Snowden. However, key swing Republican senators, including Susan Collins of Maine and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, and Todd Young of Indiana, ultimately decided to back her confirmation because they all like their jobs and they don't want to lose them. On Monday night, Murkowski acknowledged in the statement that she still had her, quote, concerns in certain positions Gabbard has taken, but added that Gabbard brings independent thinking and necessary oversight to her new role, i.e., I really don't want to vote against this one because I really like my job. Mark, I don't really care what libertarians think. I'm not trying to insult you. I know you're bringing that point to the table. I think libertarians are children, but that's okay. Most of them. They're good people, but their thinking is pretty... it's graph go up. That's essentially it. As long as the economy is good, the whole place can go to hell. And I'm just not about that. Senate Majority Leader Tom Thune defended Gabbard's nomination in a speech on the Senate floor Monday afternoon, in which he highlighted her military service and focused on her promise to right size the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. By the way, when I was studying for my master's in Homeland Security from Penn State University, when I covered the DNI was created out of the Patriot Act. And it was supposed to be the top official that was going to get all the information from all 17 there's 17 different intelligence agencies. And this person was supposed to get all the information from all the intelligence agencies. And they were going to be the one-stop shop for the president, say, Director of DNI, what's going on? And then it was blah, 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 blah. Except the intelligence community kind of laughed at the DNI for the first, 15, 16 years. Kind of like how they laughed at DHS and their security apparatus. They're like, okay, you guys have been here 20 minutes. We're the FBI. We're the CIA. What are you going to tell us? We're going to follow what you do? And so I don't know if that has changed in the time I got my master's in 2016. I don't know if that's changed since then. So it is what it is in that regard. But I don't really know if it's a big deal to have this position. A lot of people on the outside read it and they're like, "Oh my gosh, she's gonna control all the intelligence." The FBI and the CIA can still stonewall her, just like they stonewalled past DNI. So I don't know how much of an effort she'll be able to do. He also said that she was glad to hear Gabbard return to FISA Section 702 as essential after Gabbard seemed to go back and forth on her position on the issue. Gabbard is Trump's 14th nomination to be confirmed since January 20th. Her confirmation was a dramatic turnaround for a nomination that, from the start, has been among Trump's most divisive. A former Democratic, I don't like the word former. She's a Democratic congresswoman from Hawaii. Gabbard drew scrutiny from the Senate Intelligence Committee lawmakers over her views on surveillance and a series of controversial meetings she held in Lebanon in 2017, including with then President Bashar al-Assad. Either way, she's confirmed. Take a look.
Solemnly swear. I, Tulsi Gabbard, do solemnly swear
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
that I will support and defend the Constitution.
Trump's like, look at all these buddies I've got in my office. Look at them. They're all here. I got Law and Order Bunny. I've got Intella Bunny. We got in. Where's Caroline? Where's my press bunny? Come here. Where are you? I'm sorry. I'm a sexist pig.
Constitution of the United States
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
And that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
True faith to Trump. True faith to Trump. Here I am. You are swearing to me.
That I take this obligation freely.
I take this obligation freely.
You take it because you're going to get 20,000 Trump points. You're going to be the director of national intelligence, and you're going to get 20,000 Trump hotel points. It's going to be great. Love it. It's going to be so much nice. There you go. I don't know. We'll see how effective she is in the role, but she's in. Now the next two are Kash Patel and RFK. Those are the two that are everybody's kind of waiting. Wait, what? What? I has two fresh brain cells to rub together. It's because I got my monk juice on. That's all. I'm not very smart. Anyway, I hope we'll see. I don't want any of them to be bad, obviously, but I still don't like Tulsi Gabbard. Let's move on to our next story here on RickCast. I am the aforementioned Rick. Like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell for all the fun things to happen. If you are watching on Rumble right now, hit that like button. Help me out. Leave a comment. I'm watching you guys over there. I see what you're up to. I see you Rumblers hanging out over there. Yeah, right. Lou's watching on Rumble. Yeah, that's right. Tulsi she was stumping for Bernie Sanders like 20 minutes ago. Good call, Lou. Nice. Good job, Lou. Watching on Rumble. I love it. So yeah, you're right. She's anti-2A and she's anti-life. So yay, I'm so happy she's in the government. Whee! But she's a bunny. I don't care what your politics are. If you look good in a suit and you wear a Trump pin, I'm going to put you in office. I told you, I'm not a suit. I like Trump, but I'm not a Trump stan. This is not going to be like the Trump worship channel like everybody else. I get it. There's a lot of money coming out of the Trump camp to people who are pro-Trump, but whatever. I don't really give. I don't care. I don't give a rat. Right. All right, let's move on. We got two pop culture stories, and then we'll get out of here for the night. Next story up. Get me over here. Next story up of the day. Captain America, Brave New Mackie. Not doing good on the Rotten Tomatoes, which is weird because Rotten Tomatoes right now is just the reviews, just the critic reviews. And of course, we covered this back when it happened, when Anthony Mackie dropped the ball when he was in Rome, of all places, saying that Captain America doesn't really stand for America, just stands for like a bunch of things that he thinks is nice. But the fact is, he stepped in it real hard and he tried to walk it back, and they just cannot get around the fact that they've spent $350 million on this film. People loved, and myself included, loved Falcon as a character. Falcon was awesome. Mackie was perfect. There was nothing bad about being Falcon. But people just felt that, and I'm getting into the nerd lore, so buckle up if you don't want to be here. Sebastian Stan as the Winter Soldier was the obvious choice to be the next Captain America. And they gave it to Anthony Mackie. Well, it's in the comic book. No, okay, whatever. I don't really care. It just doesn't look good, especially since Anthony Mackie's character Hammond. Oh, I shouldn't be Captain America. Maybe I should. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should. Whatever, man. Yes, Lou. He shot himself in. He didn't just shoot his foot off. He blew it off with a bazooka. But now we are finally here. The movie is being released this weekend. Finally, so they can. It's kind of like it's about time to take the beating. So this is from comicbookmovie.com. The first wave of reviews from Captain America Brave New World were mixed to negative. But now that quite a few more verdicts have come, has the Rotten Tomato score changed? It's probably not. It probably won't. And I'll tell you why, because I actually have this set up. There's an account on X called Discussing Film. And Discussing Film is not exactly the bastion of right-wing cultural commentary. This is what they had to say. This is essentially a shill account. Captain America Brave New World suffers from an underdeveloped plotline. This movie's been reshot 4 times, by the way. Jarring CGI and terribly edited fight scenes. Maybe that could have been forgiven if the film delivered enough thrills. It doesn't. This movie is going to crash and burn. Crash and burn. And a lot of people can point to Mackie's comments as one thing. People were not excited for a new Captain America movie without Steve Rogers as much as a psychotic liberal that Chris Evans is. They just weren't excited for it. But now Mackie is throwing as much fuel on the fire as he can, and it's just not going to work out well for him. The full review embargo for Marvel Studios' latest multiverse saga, Captain America: The Brave New World, lifted earlier today, which is real close. The closer they lift the embargo review, the worse the movie is. If a movie is good, they lift the embargo, meaning you can't say, if you watch the movie, you have to write a review and hold it until a certain date. If the movie's good, the embargo is a lot sooner out because they want to drive buzz. They want people to be like, wow, this movie's getting great reviews. It's going to be great. Everybody's really, really happy about it. If the movie is terrible, they don't release the reviews until a day before, 2 days before, sometimes not at all. So the fact that it comes out Friday and they're releasing the reviews Wednesday is not good. Though some were won over by Anthony Mackie's big screen debut under the Captain America mantle, the movie came in for quite a bit of criticism from the majority of the press, who managed to catch an early screening. Brave New World hit Rotten Tomatoes with a 47%. Now remember, Rotten Tomatoes is just the shill critics. And even they were like, yeah, your movie kind of sucks. And while the score has risen slightly, it's not by very much. Based on 101 reviews, the latest MCU film carries a 52. You need to be at 60% to get a fresh. If the score stays below 60, Captain America Brave New World becomes just the third Marvel Studios movie to be hit with a dreaded green splat on the review aggregator after The Eternals and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It's difficult to tell if negative reviews will have any impact on the movie's box office. We already know with advanced ticket sales that it's not good. It certainly won't help. But the latest global estimates were pretty strong. Brave New World could take in as much as $200 million worldwide over the presidential holiday weekend. They better hope, because the way Marvel movies are structured, they're front loaded. They make all their money in the first and second weekends. And then after that, they drop like a rock. So remember, this movie has $350 million in the budget, maybe an extra 50 to 70 million in advertisement. You look at $400 million. They need to make $1 billion to break even. And if they're making $200 million on the opening weekend, then it's going to drop precipitously, which means this movie is going to lose probably 150 million. Let's see. Let's read one. Deadline's Pete Hammond seemed to enjoy the movie a little more. I don't want to read one that's good. IGN gave the movie 5 out of 10, concluding their review with Captain America Brave New World features neither brave nor all that new. Recycling Winter Soldier's political thriller structure is no way to set Sam Wilson apart from Steve Rogers on the big screen, but the actors are here to save the day. Yeah, IGN will pretty much give anything a good anything. Empire Magazine says, pacey and punchy, this is a promising first official outing for the new Captain America, even if some awkward and inconsistent moments hold it back from greatness. I mean, these people are being as nice as possible because it's a black Captain America, but this movie is going to tank when it actually hits theirs. 200 million worldwide means it may make $75 million here in the US in the opening weekend. You see how they're doing that? Like 200 million worldwide. Well, what does that mean in the US? That's not 200 million in the world, what in the US. And then additionally, that's 200 million around the world, which is not very good. Because even if it's in China, China takes half the box office, and then whatever's left over of that half gets split between the distributors and the exhibition and the exhibitors, the theaters. So all that they may make that much money, but it will not actually go back to the studio. So brace yourselves, Marvel fans, because this is yet going to be another terrible MCU movie. Although I'm substituting and I'm watching Marvel's Daredevil now. For some reason, Amazon had a sale on the Netflix Daredevil series. I bought all 3 for $21. So I'm working my way through those right now, which is actually pretty enjoyable. This is the RickCast. I am the aforementioned Rick. Like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, repost it on the X machine for help to get this show to grow. I appreciate everybody that's watching and hanging out with me right now. And we are going to move on to our last story of the day. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be talking about Tay-Tay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Brace for the Tay-Tay. Taylor Swift being booed at the Super Bowl means toxic masculinity has returned. Liberal writer claims. I don't know if that's him or not, but I don't know. Since Donald Trump took office, there have been several times I've felt chilled by the rapid increase in misogyny, says Glamour senior editor Stephanie McNeil. Sorry, Steph. Gonna have to deal with it. Unless you want to be one of my bunnies. You had Charlie's Angels, you have Trump's bunnies. Left-leaning writer said that Taylor Swift getting booed at the Super Bowl means that toxic masculinity is back on the menu, boys. We have returned. Since Donald Trump took office, there's been several times I felt chilled by the rapid increase in misogyny seeping into our culture. Stephanie McNeil, senior writer for Glamour, wrote in a Monday article entitled, "Why Taylor Swift Getting Booed at the Super Bowl Was Even More Chilling Than You Think. How dare they boo the Queen and her 57,000 albums about the same thing. Me dating people and then breaking up with them. But watching Taylor Swift at the Super Bowl booed by a crowd of thousands on Sunday night was a new low. Why do you care? Yeah, she was awkward, but she's a celebrity. She's used to getting her butt kissed. So when people boo, yeah, she's going to be like, what's going on? That's weird. Because that never happened to her before. She's never had to go through that publicly, right? That's not a bad thing. It happens. But it's not a means of toxic masculinity. It's really just the idea of, hey, people are kind of sick of you. You oversaturated the market, especially at football games. The NFL crowd. Lou on Rumble. Toxic femininity had a face. It would be Taylor Swift. That's right, Lou. You are on fire over there on Rumble. That's right. It would be Taylor Swift and her thousands of albums. Listen, nobody hates on her because she's a billionaire, right? Great. Congratulations. Way to work way to work and do all this other kind of stuff. Have you been good for the culture? Probably not, because white women literally treat you like a messiah. You go to one of Taylor Swift shows and they're all like screaming her songs as if it's some kind of chant to the mountain gods. But she's used to adoration. So of course she would feel weird if people booed. Nobody boos her at her concerts. That's it. And so the fact is, it's not chilling. But for the ugly cat ladies that have used Taylor as some kind of crutch for their own terrible life decisions, it is. Because they had like this moment in culture where, yes, you were a single cat lady who had a promiscuous background, let's say, and that's just according to all the Bumble and all those other dating apps, which I don't know anything about because I've been married for almost 16 years. Right, all these dating apps show that women have had more dates and more encounters, let's say, and they use Taylor Swift. Oh, she's going through it too. Yeah, but she's going through it in a mansion in Newport, Rhode Island. You're going through it in a studio apartment in Brooklyn. You're not the same. And I think really this woman is giving this vibe of how chilling it is because she is engaged in what we call the parasocial relationship with Taylor Swift. She uses Taylor Swift to justify her actions. She feels she has this parasocial relationship with Taylor Swift. Like, oh, what you go through, you wrote that song for me. No, she wrote the song because she thought it was a good song, not because Becky in Brooklyn needed you to write it for her. But these people, it's also with the loss of society and loss of community, we kind of push our projections of relationships to these YouTube celebrities and these celebrity like singers, and then singers and actors and stuff have been dealing with that for years. But now we're seeing it within the social media space as well. People develop these parasocial relationships with people. And you can see that if Taylor can be booed, does that mean that people are not going to respond to my activities and they're going to give me pushback if I try to do something? Yeah, Becky. What's her name? I don't even know. Keep calling her Becky. Yes, Stephanie. Look, there's Taylor Swift. I'm so sad. I'm going to cry in my private jet when I get home. Good for her. I wish I had a private jet. On X, videos of the moment described by McNeil showing the camera painting towards Swift, who is dating Travis Kelce, the terrible tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm sorry, overrated tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. And of course, a boos breakout. To me, the disparate reaction felt like a message. Why? You don't have any art. You are not an artist. You don't have any albums. And guess what, Stephanie? Nobody. And you're hearing it from a guy who has 173 people watching him across multiple platforms. So I get it too. Nobody knows who you are. So, Steph, this isn't you. This isn't like you're not having a problem. That the Super Bowl, one of America's biggest cultural events in the country, has been reclaimed by Trump and his type of toxic masculinity he appeared to be the beacon of. He and his supporters seem to be living for it. You realize Trump won the popular vote and he won the Electoral College. It's his moment, homie. What are you doing? What did you think? And these are the type of people that think that their cultural impact, that the pendulum never swings. Guess what? It swings. And you guys lived your time. You put the screws on everybody, and now you're gonna have to deal with it. President Trump made history on Sunday as the first sitting president to ever attend the Super Bowl. When his face appeared on the Jumbotron, it was met with cheers. Perhaps the moment would have felt less visceral if not for the fact that less than an hour earlier, the crowd had exploded, this time with applause, to see Trump on the same screen. An image of the president stone-faced and standing in a salute was shown during the national anthem. The roar and approval of cheers was deafening. These are just New York limousine liberals who just and you know what, Brian, you're right. It is just sad. It is just so sad. I feel bad for this woman. I'm not even trying to rip her. I feel bad for her. And I guess nothing really encapsulates how bad it is for the Democrats right now. than to have Taylor Swift booed. Like their queen to be booed on stage, and the fact that they're losing their minds over her being booed when she was probably like, oh, that's weird. Let me get on my private jet and fly back to one of my 15 mansions. Oh, man, I don't care anymore. Yet these people are embodying it, right? Yeah, somebody's going to get booed. Somebody's going to get cheered. It is what it is, especially in a sporting event. It's not like people are buying tickets to her concerts, which would be weird, and then booing her on stage. She goes to her safe spaces all over the place, but it's not her. It's what she represents, right? That queen, toxic femininity, really the last 10 years of, women are in control and they're doing this and they're blah, blah, blah. And, we are just all that stuff, all that annoying matriarchal features that the culture was trying to push on us. There seems to be a steady repudiation of that. And the booing of Taylor Swift was kind of the culmination of that. And the left can't handle it because now, and this will be the last thing I say, it's because they feel like if she's getting booed, then the last thing they have a hold on, which is the culture, is in serious danger. And if that's in danger, then they don't know what they're going to do if they lose the culture. I don't think they're in danger of losing it anytime soon. But even the threat of it is something they can't handle, which is why they're freaking out about this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this episode of the RickCast. I appreciate everybody hanging out with me. Please do me a favor of liking, subscribing, sharing, hitting that notification bell, and you will be advised when this show starts every night at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. If you are watching on the X Machine, hit the follow button, hit the retweet button, so that way you can be advised when the show does indeed go live. You can hang out with me then. I will see you all tomorrow night here on RickCast. I am the aforementioned Rick. God bless, and until that day comes, free Dexter Taylor.